My name is Larry Essig. I am going to be 85 years old in August. I was, and my date of birth is August 4th, 1926.
Okay. Where were you born?
I was born in Cincinnati, but my family lived in Newport at the time. But my mother went to the hospital to have me and my brother. All of our sisters, there were 5 in number, were born at home. But we were both breeches, and the doctor didn't want to deliver her at home. So I was born at Bethesda Hospital.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood.
Well, I was the youngest of 7 children, 1 brother and 5 sisters. Grew up in a very close family household. Our grandmother lived with us, who was a dear, and I learned a lot from her in the way of living a good life. Went to Newport Public Schools, graduated from Newport High School in the class of 1944. Newport was the gambling sin city when I was growing up, and I knew a number of those people who were sinners.
And what was some of the good advice that your grandmother gave you?
Well, my grandmother was always busy. She was up in years, but she always said that she had to stay busy because the angel of death would look around and look over the world, and he would see who's busy, and he would leave them alone and he'd go someplace else. So that was her excuse for being busy. But she was very active in our little synagogue in Newport. She did a lot of cooking and baking for affairs that they had there. And she was just a good person, wonderful person. And my mother got her good personality and her good deeds, and my father had them too.
Tell me about your wife and when you got married. To what?
I was first married in 1957 to Diane Fishman Essig. We had three sons, and unfortunately, she passed away in 1979 of ovarian cancer, which was sort of strange since I was an OB/GYN and she died of ovarian cancer. My second marriage was to Joanne Sugar Feingold. No, take the sugar out. Joanne Feingold, and we were married in 1982. Joanne has 2 daughters, and I have 3 sons, so we're sort of like the Grady Bunch.
The Grady Bunch. Tell us about your family.
Okay, I have 3 sons. My wife has 2 daughters, so we have 5 children, and we have 9 and 8/9 grandchildren. We have one that is expected to come any day. Unfortunately, none of them live in Cincinnati. They all live far from home, Cincinnati being home.
All right. Tell us about your community work that you've done over the years.
Yeah, well, at one time I was on the board of the Jewish Family Service, and my partner and I took care of all the unwed mothers who were going to give their babies up for adoption and delivered them pro bono as a good deed for the community and those people who were financially not quite there. So we did it pro bono, and it was a great pleasure for us to do that, even if it was at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was on the board of Temple Sholem at one time, on the board of Adath Israel at one time. I'm not a board person. I don't like boards, but I was on those boards. And then several years back, my wife and I volunteered to teach second graders to improve their reading. And shortly after that, we saw some lady recognize me as being her son's tutor, and told me that he was in the 6th grade and he was in the A group for reading, which made me feel very good. Not that it was really my fault, but it made me feel good.
And what have you done with Cedar Village? Because you've been active here for a long time. So.
Right. I've been a volunteer at Cedar Village since its inception. I originally came to visit with the residents, particularly those Russians who had trouble communicating with their caregivers. And so I would speak Yiddish with them because I don't speak Russian. But we were able to communicate with each other. And I acted sort of as an ombudsman so that they could get their thoughts passed on to the caregivers. And then I brought Yiddish movies and showed them to the people that understood Yiddish. But unfortunately, what has happened over the years that I've been volunteering, my Russian friends have all passed away, and you become very close to these people after knowing them for years and years, and it's a great loss, but it's a great pleasure for me to come and be able to just be a friend to these residents who are here. Some have family here, some don't have family here, and it's just a wonderful, I get more out of it, I think, than the residents do, and I enjoy it, and I'm here every Thursday when I'm in town.
Wonderful. Tell us, I want to back just a little bit because we missed over your military because you were in the Army,
right.
Or the Air Force.
Air
You were
Force.
in the Air Force.
Right.
And also your medical training and all that.
Yeah, I went to undergraduate and graduate school here in Cincinnati. Graduated from the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine in 1949. I interned at the Jewish Hospital. Then I went into residency at the University of Colorado in Denver, took my specialty training there, and then the Air Force wanted me, so I spent 2 years in the Air Force, and I was the chief of the OB/GYN section at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi. That was a fun time, and something that I was doing for my country. Came back to Cincinnati and went into practice with Stuart Schloss. And we were together for 17 years until he decided to retire. 6 months after that, my nephew, Marv Euclid, came to join me, and we had a wonderful relationship. Then another nephew, Sheldon Pelkowitz, who unfortunately died at a very young age, also came to join. And then David Schwartz joined us, but that was just about the time that I was thinking of retiring.
What advice would you give others about living their life or serving others?
Well, the first thing I would say is that it's very important to be busy. You got to do something, whether it's for yourself or for others, but of course doing for others is a mitzvah. I think that's the secret to success in retirement. Now, if you're busy working in a younger age, you still can find time to do things for others, although you don't have as much time as you do when you're in retirement. That's the best advice I can give. Just stay busy and think about others and try to do what you can to help other people.
And tell me what accomplishment you're most proud of.
I think the accomplishment that I'm most proud of is having my second bar mitzvah, which will be 2 years ago in August. It was a wonderful experience. I did it first for myself, and I did it for my children and my grandchildren to show how I feel about my religion and hope that that will wear off, and it has already. I know my youngest son is president of the Jewish Community Center in Salt Lake City and very active in the synagogue. My other sons are also active in their synagogues and their JCCs. So that's a good thing.
And let's see. Tell me about your hobbies and what you like to do in your spare time.
Well, right now I go to the gym 3 days a week and work out, which keeps me in shape. I'm going to keep doing that as long as I can. In the past, I was a woodworker. I still have the shop, but I was doing a lot of woodworking, which I enjoyed very much, until my hips started bothering me and it was difficult for me to stand for any length of time. So I gave it up. And unfortunately, I haven't gone back to it, but I still have the urge, and I might do it again. I did photography when I was younger, had a dark room, and that was enjoyable. Those are my hobbies.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the people that are going to be there that night?
I don't think so. I think that sort of, in a nutshell, tells something about Larry Essig.
My name is Benjamin Gettler, and I was born on September 16, 1925. Is my voice loud enough?
Yeah, that mic is picked up on whisper, so.
Okay, good.
Where were you born?
Louisville, Kentucky.
I was born in.
I was born in Louisville, Kentucky,
Okay.
but I lived in a number of cities before coming to Cincinnati.
What cities did you live in?
Indianapolis, Indiana, Terre Haute, Indiana, Chicago, Illinois, and then to Cincinnati.
So when you were a child, you traveled and moved like that, or has it been your adult life?
No, it's when I was a child. I moved to Cincinnati in 1938. And I was right before my bar mitzvah. So I was bar mitzvah here in Cincinnati.
And tell us about your family.
I'm married, I have a wife, beautiful, wonderful, intelligent wife. Her name is Dee Gettler, and I have 5 children and 8 grandchildren.
And how long have you been married?
39 years. I think it's 39 years.
Would you say I've been married 39 years?
I've been married 39 years.
Happy years.
Very happy years.
All right. All right. Tell us about your working years, about your career and your occupation.
Well, it's been, with regard to vocations, I was a lawyer after graduating from Harvard Law School in 1948. I was a lawyer until 1980, at which time, although in 1980, I became CEO of Vulcan Corporation, Vulcan International, and that's was on the American Stock Exchange at the time, and I became the CEO. And the former CEO had died suddenly, and I was the general counsel for the company, and I knew more about the company than anybody else. So the board asked me to serve as the CEO, and that's what I've done. But I got very involved in local philanthropic eleemosynary organizations. For example, I became chairman of the board of the University of Cincinnati. I became chairman of the board of Jewish Hospital. I'm trying to remember all of them now. There's so many. I was president of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Cincinnati. Well, there's so many. I'm trying to remember them all. In fact, that's one thing that happens, I see, with age. You just don't have the same kind of good memory I once had.
I know what you mean. You were the founding member of the Jewish Foundation, right? And also the Republican Jewish Coalition. Do you want to talk about those two?
Yeah, that's the National Republican Jewish Coalition.
Okay. So I'll let you just state that, so that way he has it on the camera.
Well, I'd like to lead into that because I represented the Screen Actors Guild.
Mhm.
And at the Screen Actors Guild, I met Ronald Reagan, got to know him, and of course, when he decided to run, I knew who he was and what he believed in, and it was very exciting. And I became co-chairman of the Reagan campaign in this area, and and at the same time we formed a national Jewish Republican coalition, and it's a great connection.
Okay. So on the form that someone submitted, they said that you were the president of JCRC and that you advocated passionately for the plight of Soviet Jews. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, that's in connection in general with my general philosophy.
Okay.
I grew up at a time when Jews were being persecuted, killed by the Nazis, and I saw that we had very little power of any kind. We thought, that is the Jewish community, we thought we had a president who cared about us. Franklin D. Roosevelt. We learned differently. And we learned also we had very little political clout. And I've urged the Jewish people, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, get involved politically, because that's the only power that's real power in this country. And I got involved politically. That's one of the reasons I did. And I urge everybody, every Jew, to get involved like that. Because if anything ever happens, we can only count on ourselves. And what counts is, do we have any political power? Do we have people we can pick up the phone and call and talk to? And I got to that position. And I wish we had more.
Okay. What motivates you to give back?
I think the horrors of the 30s and the 40s.
We start with the motivation.
I'm sorry, what?
My motivation.
Oh, okay. Can you say my motivation
Yeah,
to...
my motivation was what I learned was going on in the 30s and 40s, and that I wanted to do something about it, to get in a position where I could do something about it. And when Ronald Reagan got nominated, I worked on his campaign to get him in the #1 position, and we did get him in the #1 position, as you know. And my motivation is the security of the Jewish people.
Was that...
That's wonderful. That's
Okay.
great.
Tell me about your values and your beliefs.
My values, my beliefs. I think #1, and I've been mentioning it before, but all right, #1 is I believe that the Jewish people have to have somewhere to go when trouble comes. And when trouble came in Germany and Europe, we had nowhere to go. And there wouldn't have been a Holocaust if we'd have had the political power then that we have today. And I can't think of anything more important than that.
What advice would you like to give to people about living their lives?
Well, living your life, of course, you try to be happy. But that's not good enough. As a Jew, you have an opportunity to do something for other people. And we have that opportunity because of what happened to us, to our people in the 30s and 40s, and what our people were able to do in creating a land where they could go. And that also is particularly dear to me because my parents were born in Israel, both of them. And I've been there about 20 times. I became chairman of the Jewish National Chairman of the Jewish Institute for National Security Affairs, which incidentally is bipartisan. We have a number of people who are not Jewish that are involved in that, for example, John Bolton, who was the UN representative, Jean Kirkpatrick, and we in JINSA have filled a hole that we had within the Jewish community, because when things looked really bad again in I'm trying to remember exactly when the last war was. Not the last war, but the war with Egypt, when we were attacked, and the Syrians came across the border, right above on the hills above where my family's farms are. I have 5 first cousins, all have farms on the Golan, near the Golan Heights, or right at the foot of the Golan Heights. And I was there, and you could look up and the Syrian guns were pointing down at us. And it was pretty exciting. After the Syrians, have you been to Israel?
I have not.
Well, if you'd be there and we're up on the Golan Heights, you can stand there and you can look down and see all the farms right there. And they guarded the border. And I remember when I first went there, and my cousin strapped on his guns, one cousin, the older one. And I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to walk the border." I said, "I'm going with you." He said, "No, you're not." I said, "Yes, I am." And I went with him, and we walked from spot to spot where there were the young people, like I'd say, ages 17, 18, and their bodies were the first warning of a crossing of the border. And I remember in 1967, when I knew there was going to be another war, I contacted them and I said, "Send the children back here to the United States." And they sent me telegraphs back saying, "No, this is where we were born, and we'll die here if necessary." They wouldn't do that. And when I went over there, I think I was probably maybe the first American up there. Most of them were in the Miklat-Tim, the bomb shelters, and they stayed. They stayed, and then they led the charge up the hill. One of them was a colonel in the reserves. That was Eliezer. Shlomo was a major in the reserves. And they charged up the hill and threw the Syrians off the hill. They also said there were Russians up there because they could hear Russian being spoken. So that was an exciting time.
What accomplishment are you most proud of?
I think having been national chairman of JINSA.
Will you do
I'm
this?
probably most proud of having been selected to be national chairman of JINSA. It's an organization which has a very focused aim, which is the security of the United States and the security of Israel and the entanglement of them. And it gave us relations with the military in the United States, which we had never had before.
And tell me what you learned from your parents as you were growing up, the philosophies.
Well, that you never give up.
Would you sentence form that?
Yeah. I learned from them that you never give up. I also learned that one person can make a big difference. I get very upset if anybody tells me, what can one person do? I found that one person can do an awful lot, can affect the course of international events. It may surprise some people to hear that. That's certainly been my experience. You know, when you get a call and say, come to the White House, and you go in there and you sit by the president and you talk, what you talk about is the important things that are important to me. Same way when I met Margaret Thatcher. And we talked and talked, and she wanted me to sit by her at dinner, which I did. And she told me several things about the Suez War that I didn't know. That Anthony Eden, who was Prime Minister at the time of the Suez War. And Foster Dulles, who was our Secretary of State, put tremendous pressures on him, threatened that they would have a run on the Bank of England, which would hurt England terribly if they didn't get out of that war. And Anthony went to the hospital. He was very sick, and he couldn't take the pressure. And that's one reason the war ended as it did. It ended with victory in the sense that the Suez Canal was open. But it could have done a lot more.
And final thing, hobbies. Would you tell me about the things that you like to do in your spare time?
I like to travel. And I've connected my travel with my belief and desire to accomplish certain things. I've traveled to see the Prime Minister of Ethiopia by his invitation. I traveled to see the Turkish military, met with the Chief of Staff of the Turkish military. Met with military and I'd say some of the chief influentials in Uzbekistan, which was very important for us for our country, when we went into Iraq. We needed to have an air base there. And the good relations that we created made that possible. That is, when I say we, I'm talking about JINSA. It was not because there was anything good done by the State Department. Quite the contrary. They picked a fight with the #1 man there, which we learned when we went over. They had asked the State Department to monitor their election. They wanted to show that they had fair elections. And they wouldn't do it. And why wouldn't they do it? I guess they said that there wasn't enough of an opposition to the #1 person there. And you have to, in order to have real democracy, you have to have 2 parties and 2 strong parties. Well, that sounds good. But it also means that you're hurting the interests of the United States, because you're kicking the man who's our friend in the face. And he was our friend. And I found it very interesting that the Israeli ambassador approached it from a totally different way. They knew they needed friends in that part of the world, and they made friends. They sent people to aid them in their transition, in their agricultural produce. Under the Soviets had made them into one big cotton farm, which used up the water that they had, and water was a very important thing there. And of course the Soviets didn't care. I remember also in Ethiopia, we went to the headwaters of the Blue Nile. The Prime Minister Meles, was very accommodating and took us to see the border where they had gotten in a fight with Eritrea. Craziest thing imaginable. The two of them fought together to throw out the Soviets. And then they had a breach between them. And there they were shooting at each other up on the border. It made no sense at all. Anyway, what I found is through JINSA, and as the national chairman of JINSA, I was able to be an integral part of what happened in that part of the world. Oh, and one more thing, because I just thought of that. I thought something. One of the things that I thought was extremely interesting when we went to Turkey, and as the head of JINSA at that time, I was asked to lay a wreath at the tomb of Kemal Ataturk. I don't know how much that name means to the audience. Kemal Ataturk was the founder of modern Turkey. He is the one that threw out the ruler of Turkey and basically took over Turkey. And the military put in a new secular kind of country, government. They even had a law that forbade the people from using Arabic symbols. They were supposed to use English American symbols. They also forbade them from wearing the little fez. They made him into a Western country. And that went along for quite a long time until, I know when I went there first time, which was the mid-90s, I was there 3 times. One result was that there was new agreements made between between Israel and Turkey. It was followed by joint maneuvers. And there were a number of agreements made, including Israel getting a large contract to repair and service the Turkish Air Force. Unfortunately, that relationship is not now as it was at that time. We created a great relationship between the countries. And there was a falling out with the United States, too, at that point in time. Because at that point in time, the president was Clinton. And we had sold ships that we didn't need, warships. And the Turks had paid for them. They trained men to go over and sail them back here. At the last minute, they were advised that we weren't going to turn the ships over to them. Well, they were irate, as you can imagine. And they're a very important country to us. If you look at where they are, immediately to the north is Russia. Immediately to the southwest is Iran. Coming all around, you come to Iraq. They're a very important country to us. And we just sort of kicked him in the teeth by saying we wouldn't turn these ships over to you. And why did it happen? It happened because one of our Democrat senators, Senator Sarbanes, who's Greek, talked to Clinton and talked him into canceling the sale. And anyway, I and the former chairman of NATO, Admiral Edney, saw enough people in the Congress to reverse that, which really impressed the Turks, by the way, which is what led to other things that happened.
Tom Lucan is someone that you know pretty well. Didn't you travel with Tom Lucan?
We did. We went to Turkey together. Excuse me, so Tom Lucan and I went to the Soviet Union together under the guise that we're going to talk to him about the telecommunications. And that was perfect for Tom because he was chairman of the subcommittee on telecommunications. But he's a man with a big heart. And he cared about Soviet Jews. And so we agreed that we'll talk about the guys first, telecommunications. They have an interesting problem there. They have 11 time zones they cover. Anyway, after we finished talking, then we'd say, no, there's one more thing we want to talk about. We want to have good relations between the Soviet Union and the United States. And there's one major problem. The fact that you will not allow your Jews to leave the country has created a very bad picture of the Soviet Union in our country, in the United States. And they would say, oh, that's not our department. Yes, but we know that you all meet together, you can talk together. We'd like you to push that, get that message over to them. And they'd say, well, no one is forbidden to leave here. Anybody who wants to leave can leave. And we'd say, well, we've talked to several people here in the Soviet Union, and we pushed to them the list of people. They'd say, well, just look at this. They, oh, no, it's not our charge. Yes, it is. We're giving it to you. And we'd like to see what happens. And we had names of, I think it was about 25 people that wanted to get out. When we left, within the next 6 months, more than half of those people had been released. That was something to be very proud of. I was very proud of that. And as a matter of fact, one of the most exciting things was, over there I met a young man who was about my age, Benjamin Bogomolny, and his wife had a very serious cancer. And she wasn't being properly taken care of. And she was going to die if she wasn't. And after we left there, just about 3 or 4 months later, I got a telephone call. It was from Benjamin Bogomolny. And where are you? He says, I'm in Vienna. My wife is with me. They're letting us go. I was very, very proud of that. And they're in San Francisco now. And she's been treated, she's well now. So that's something to be very proud of.
That's an awesome story. So, is there anything else that you'd like to add, or do you think we've covered everything?
Oh, if I did, I'd have to write the
I
whole.
know, but
I'd have to
everything that
write
you
my whole
want
book.
to. You're writing a book now, right?
Yes,
What are you writing a book on?
my life,
Okay.
and telling people about
That's
these
why I'm
various.
writing a book.
Would you say, I've got something in mind.
I'm currently in the process of writing a book.
Okay. Would you mind to say that way? I'm currently in the process of writing a book.
I'm currently in the process of writing a book, mostly at the pushing of my wife. Gosh, just because she knows all the things I've been involved in. And she said, you know, the children don't know all that you've done. You should be writing a book. And I put her off and put her off. And after about a year of her keeping at me to do it, I got to it. And I'm a long way into it. And I just happen to think of something else as we're talking now. I don't even think I put it in the book, Dee. And that's the time that I was taken to this place right outside Vienna where Soviet Russian Jews were temporarily being housed. They were on their way out. And that was exciting.
Is that
All of a
where
sudden
you-
they were free.
Did your mother go through Vienna?
Yes. Yes, she did. When my mother came to this country, she left from the northern part of Israel, which at that time was a part of the Turkish Empire, the Ottoman Empire. And she and her younger brother and her mother actually walked from Safed in Israel, across the border through Turkey, through Syria, through Turkey, Bulgaria, Romania, and they got to Vienna and got to this country because her older brother had come here at a younger time when he was younger. So he had a ticket for them.
What's going to be the name of the book?
Visible Footprints.
Say the name of my book.
The name of my book is Visible Footprints. And it has a meaning, of course. I made my footprints very visible. Yeah, there are foundations that I've been very much a part of. And those foundations have a very close relationship with this institution, Cedar Village, the Jewish Foundation of Cincinnati, where I was the first chairman and the first president, has given a great deal to this particular institution. I think we built a kitchen for you and did a lot of other things. And then another one that I was the first president and the first chairman of was the Rockhorn, Dr. Rockhorn. Dr. Rockhorn's charitable foundation. And there, Dr. Rockhorn had problems with his eyesight. And so, as chief officer of that organization, I thought it would be honoring his memory for us to give apartments here that were especially for visually impaired, and we did that. So I'm very proud of it. It's a close connection with this institution.
Well, let's take a shot at it, huh?
All right.
Do you see, is it all right to?
You're fine. I'm not seeing that at all.
You're not seeing that? You're from there on up?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this my best side?
You got the good side.
All right.
Okay.
Tell me your name, your age, and your birth date.
My name is Murray Gutman. I'm 81 years old, and I was born February the 2nd, 1930.
Okay. And where were you born?
Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
Would you say I was born in?
Oh, I was born in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, and moved to Cincinnati when I was 8 years old in 1938.
Okay. And could you tell me a little bit about your childhood while you were growing up? What was special to you?
Well, I guess I was a normal kid. I had fun. Growing up. Can we scratch this for a minute? Okay. How far in the childhood do you want to go? I mean,
Just whatever you want to share. Whatever pops into your mind is fine.
Childhood being to what age?
Well, just while you were growing up until you were out of high school, maybe?
Okay, that wasn't on your
I
list.
know. Do you want me just not to ask that and we'll do something else?
No, what did I do growing up? Growing up?
Can you talk about events if you like to,
Did you
go
play
play
sports?
football, baseball,
Yeah,
or what, things you
participated.
like to do?
Yeah, yeah. I grew up. I participated in sports. Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So
A
just,
question?
No, all right. So just tell us what you enjoyed doing when
Well,
you
wait
were
a minute.
growing up.
I want to put this about. I am honored to be here.
Okay.
Okay.
Go
Before
ahead.
you ask that question.
Okay.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
guess. Okay. So after that opening part and before after my age and all that, I'd like to say at this time I am honored to be one of the 8 over 80. And I'm very proud to be recognized tonight, and I am proud to be among the other 16 that have been honored before me.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Now, do you want to tell us about your childhood?
My childhood was very nice. I came from a very happy home. As I was growing up in school, I participated in different sports and enjoyed playing football and swam on the swimming team, football team. I participated there. All things that people won't believe. I had a lead role when I was in the 8th grade in a school play called Huckleberry Finn, and would you believe I was Huckleberry Finn, which was a real experience.
Okay. Tell us about, once you got out of school, what you did for your occupation, what your career, tell us about your career.
After college, I went to work for my father and my uncle in Triangle Roofing and Supply Company. It was a distributor of roofing and supply, roofing materials and siding. And after 2 or 3 years in the business, I expanded the business into a full-line building supply company, changed the name to Triangle Distributing and Supply, and grew the business to a pretty substantial size. As my children became of age and came into the business, can we back that out? I forgot to go. We expanded into. Can we scratch that whole thing and let me read?
Keep talking. We can add it.
Okay. Okay. After college, I went to work in my father and uncle's business, distributing roofing and supply. It's called Triangle Roofing and Supply Company. After 2 or 3 years in business, I expanded the business into a full-line distributing company of building materials and changed the name to Triangle Distributing and Supply. And we were the first ones in the city to introduce aluminum windows, and that was a new thing in this city because of the local manufacturer had steel windows, and it was a new thing altogether. I started building single-family houses in 1957, and started after that, graduated to start building some small apartment complexes. And as each of my sons came into the business, we expanded our business into different phases of the development and building business. And today, I guess we're recognized as one of the larger developers and builders in the city of Cincinnati.
Wonderful. Tell me about, let's back up just a little bit. Tell us about your family, your wife, your kids, your grandkids.
Something I'm very proud of. I have a spouse, a wife, Elaine. I have 4 kings and a queens, 4 sons and a daughter. They married 4 queens and a king, and for a total of 10. They produced me 22 grandchildren. And the grandchildren, as of date, have produced me 5 great-grandchildren. Being that I'm married a second time, I've also have 6 step-children and 10 step-grandchildren, and also 1 step-great-grandchild.
That is a big family. That's awesome.
That is a big family.
And you had mentioned after college, where did you go to school at? Did you graduate here in Cincinnati?
No, I went to college here. I didn't graduate. I went to Miami University and then the University of Cincinnati.
You have been extremely involved in community work throughout the years. Could you tell us a little bit about what you've been involved in and what motivates you to help others and give back?
Yes, you're right. I've been involved in several things, but there's a few that stand out. And Federation, Jewish Federation of Cincinnati, I started at a young age there, and I was involved with being chairman of several different divisions in the Federation. And in 1992 and 93, I was co-chairman of the major campaign along with Dick Schenck. And we had this was the first year that we had a 2-line campaign. And the reason of a 2-line campaign at that time was that we needed our funds for our local agencies, but we also were involved with Exodus, had a 2nd line for the Exodus. And I was very excited about that and very happy to be part of that, because I felt the Exodus campaign was like saving lives. Dick and I worked very hard, and we produced over $20 million in the 2 years that we were chairmen of total fundraising, and I think that's a record that stands today. Other community activities I'm involved in, or was involved in, and still today, and have been involved with Chabad in Cincinnati for some last 30 years. I've been involved with them because I feel I like the work that they do as an outreach to our younger population. My other and one of my favorites and major love and endeavors, my responsibility was getting involved with Cedar Village. I was on the board of the Orthodox Jew home and involved, I didn't have anything to do with the merger. That was someone else's job that did it. But once we merged with Glen Manor, I got involved with the dream of Cedar Village and worked with the architect, engineers, and committees headed by Frank Harkavy and Paul Hyman, and Cedar Village was created and born and here today. And as I walk through the facility now, I see that we're updating to keep up with the times, which is a beautiful thing to see. I did other activities in my days. I was involved with the JCC and most of their fundraising campaigns, and went on to Rockburn, and the Yavna at that time was involved with fundraising for Rockburn, and enjoyed doing that type of work. I'd say as far as being involved with some of the things as of today, I'm still involved very much with Chabad of campus that are on campus. They're located on the UC campus, and I feel there was a very need for their being there for their children at that age. It's very important for them to have some traditional place to go.
So you really have done both spectrums. You've done the seniors and also the young people all throughout your life.
Yes, it comes out that way.
But it wasn't planned that way, was it?
It was not planned that way, no.
So, what advice would you like to share with others about living life and giving back to the community, serving others?
I guess in a simple sentence, I would like to pass on, and I guess my advice would, I think your question would say, what would you like to see passed on to your family and friends? Mm-hmm. And in one small sentence, I would like to keep Judaism alive in your family and in the community.
I have a question for you that came up on your nomination form, that you used to be a catcher.
I played some baseball.
Would you tell us about that? Because I just was curious. It just really interested me
Not
for some
much.
reason, but there wasn't very much there. It was just that you were well known in the Jewish leagues for catching.
I think that's a little over.
But I'm just telling you, that's what.
It's a little overstated. I enjoyed it. I was on a good team. We did very well, and we played, and we spent a lot of time at the Jewish Center playing softball.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add or that you want to share?
Regarding what?
Anything that you'd like to, that we haven't covered, that you would like to have others know about? There's a question that you had on your list, and I thought it was a very good question, and it required a very simple answer. It said, what advice would you offer to other people about living there?
their lives? That's a very tough question. So I reduced it to what I thought was the most important thing. And it basically says to learn the pleasure of tzedakah. Get a good education and be kind and generous.
Do you have enough there for sentence form, or do you want him to repeat that?
I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we can make sure we include that. And I have another question too. What has made life meaningful for you?
That is an easy question for me to answer. I guess having a large family, I am extremely proud of them being involved in the community, their generosity, and their taking active leadership roles in our community. That has probably been my biggest pleasure.
And is there anything that you learned from your parents or your grandparents that really kind of helped form your opinions or make you who you are?
Well, the main lessons I learned from my parents was to be honest and fair, be a man of your word, be a good listener, and be a good friend.
Okay. The last question, I promise. What are your hobbies?
This is a good question because I was always too busy in business working, but I did take up a hobby of playing golf, attempting to play golf, I should say. And being 80 years old or over 80, I'm asked the question often, do you shoot your age? And my answer is, every time I go out and play. Sometimes it happens on the 14th or 15th hole, but I do shoot my age.
Okay. Anything else that you think that you want to make sure that we get included in there?
I think you did great.
All right. Awesome. And so you're all done. That wasn't so bad, was it?
Thank you.
So Murray, what are you most proud of?
I'm extremely proud, and I'm glad you asked that question, of my children being involved in the community, taking leadership roles throughout, and carrying on, even to the extent of I have 2 great-grandsons. Elijah is 4, Levi is 2, and they started, and they just a few weeks ago walked for MS and raised over $250. And you can't start too young in this business and this family of being philanthropic. And I'm extremely proud of what's going on with my family.
All right.
Okay, what do you want to talk about as other businesses? Just the
Why
restaurants that he
don't you tell us
opened
about
up
the restaurants that we had the pictures of?
No, that gets too much. Then people are going to start asking what happened to them.
Oh, okay, so you don't want to...
No, let that out.
Since we have you on camera, do
Yeah.
you want to tell us about your golf honor? You were talking about how you enjoy playing golf.
Well, I enjoy playing golf. There's no question about it. And I was fortunate. I was honored by the JCC in 2006 at the Adams Golf Classic, and it was extremely successful as far as fundraising went, and I'm very proud to be an honoree there also.
My name is Eric Hattenbeck,
And how old are you?
91.
Well, make sure he says, I am 91 years old.
Okay. I'm 91 years old.
Okay. What's your birth date?
October the 13th, 1919.
Okay. Make sure he says, and my birthday is.
Okay.
You just,
Okay, so can you say my birth date is?
Okay.
Okay. So what is your birth date?
My birthday is October the 13th, 1919.
Okay. And Eric, where were you born?
I was born in Kassel, Germany, which is the capital of Hesse, where the Hessian soldiers came from during the Revolutionary War.
Okay. Who are your family members?
My wife's name is Annette. My daughter name is Joan. I have 2 sons, Mark and Larry, and 3 grandchildren, Meredith, Kimberly, and Michael, and 3 great-grandchildren, Zoe, Zachary, and Charlie.
Okay. Tell us about what you did in your professional life.
I retired in October 1978. I was employed at the General Electric Company in Evendale for 38 years as an engineering designer, designing jet engine. I was a pioneer in the use of computers for design in place of drawings, in place of drawing boards. I was first to do the preliminary design of jet engines on computers.
Okay. So since you retired, what kind of community work have you been involved in?
I'm an active member of B'nai B'rith for over 60 years. I was a treasurer at Alfred M. Cohen Bowling League for 25 years. I'm also active member of Evan Miami Masonic Lodge for over 40 years. I got married by Rabbi Feinberg, and I'm still a member of an active member of Aleph Israel's congregation. I attend daily services on Tuesday mornings at 7 o'clock since my retirement. Our first volunteering assignment was at the Women Golf Tournament and the Cork Senior Classic at Kings Island. I started volunteering at the Shrine Hospital for Children in 1992, working at the information section and medical record section using computers. I've been a whole observer for the Cedar Village golf outing since it started, and I've been filing in the medical record department every Tuesday since 1997 at Cedar Village.
So tell us what motivates you to give back to the community.
On January 1949, I was drafted in the U.S. Army and sent to Fort Knox for training in the Tank Corps. After finishing basic training, I was sent to the South Pacific because Congress passed the Enemy Alien Act, and since I was not a citizen, I could not be sent overseas. I went to Fort Benjamin Harrison, and it took the Army 2 years to clear me before I was sent to England to be trained for military government. The general who was the head of the Signal Corps wanted some people that spoke German or French, and I was assigned to a motor messenger unit. Our job was to deliver official mail by jeep. In July 1945, the Army moved German prisoners of war to the signal depots, and I was transferred as an interpreter. One of my assignments was to translate for the doctor the sick call in the morning. After the Battle of Bulge, there was a need for infantry replacements, and the doctor I was working with had to give me my physical examination. He stated that my eyesight was not good enough for the infantry, and that it was the second time that saved me from going into action. After 4 years in the Army, I returned to Cincinnati, and I was very fortunate to get a job with General Electric, and I had a very successful career. I got married in January 1949 and blessed with children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. To be fortunate like this, I think volunteering is just a little I can give back to in return what the community did for me.
So how many years have you been volunteering now? I was just curious. Do you want to move on to hobbies? What hobbies do you enjoy?
Oh, working playing on my computer. I played golf until my league disbanded 2 years ago, and I do daily crypto quip and sometimes crossword puzzles in the Inquirer. I'm a member of Dry Health Fitness Center where I work out 3 days a week. I walk, exercise, and work out on 16 weight machines. I enjoy watching all sports, especially the Red Spangles, UC basketball and football.
values and beliefs would you like to pass on to your family and to your friends?
Being able to help people when necessary.
I'll make sure he repeats the question on that.
Would you repeat the question on that? Would you say, I think it's important to be able to help people when necessary?
Yeah.
Could you say that for him so
Okay.
it's on the tape?
We-
Just because he wants you to repeat the question.
okay.
So could you repeat, like, just say something like, I believe it's important to help people whenever
Oh,
necessary.
it's very important to help people when it's necessary.
Okay. And what kind of advice would you give other people about living their lives?
My advice is to be important thing in my two important things in my opinion is to keep yourself busy at all times and not worrying about petty things.
Eric, what accomplishments are you most proud of?
Being married to Annette for 62 years and my family working for GE for 38 years.
But Doug, can you
Right,
start?
right, I know. Can you repeat that question and just say, the accomplishments that I'm most proud of is being
Okay.
married?
Okay, the accomplishments I'm most proud of is being married to Annette for 62 years and my family working at GE for 38 years.
What has made your life meaningful? And repeat the question. So,
My family and many wonderful friends. Going back to Germany in 2000, seeing a synagogue built in my hometown. Also seeing some of the people I have lost contact with who sell it all over the world and live in Kassel, Germany. I've been fortunate to be able to travel and visit most of the U.S. and many countries, including several visits to Israel.
do you want to do that one again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Eric, because what he's doing with this is he's going to switch from slide to slide view. He's not going to do like the whole thing. So he'll be like, he needs for you to say, what's been most meaningful in my life is being married, or
Okay.
whatever it is that's most important to you.
Yeah.
But he needs for you to leave that in, so the
Okay.
way when he switches it back and forth,
Okay.
people will be able to follow you on the video.
Okay.
So let's do that one again, about what's made your life meaningful.
Well, the most meaningful in my life is my family and my wonderful friends. Going back to Germany in year 2000 and seeing a synagogue being built in my hometown. Also seeing some of the people I have lost contact with who sailed all over the world after leaving Kassel, Germany. I've been very fortunate to be able to travel and visit much of the U.S. and many countries, including several visits to Israel.
Could you tell us what you've learned from your parents and your grandparents, and what you'd like to share with others? And tell us what you'd like to share.
let's start with the question.
The most important thing I learned was from my father, I was very fortunate to be able to come to America with my parents in 1938, 6 months prior to Kristallnacht. My father was very smart and realized that when Hitler moved the German army into the Rhineland in France, France and England would not take any action. There was no future for Jews in Germany at this time. It was time to get out.
Okay. So that's what he has here. Do you want us to just kind of do some,
Just some ad hoc right
That's
now. where
what-
he's-
that's
yeah,
what-
Anything
that's-
you can get where you don't have to read.
Right.
That way we can kind of incorporate it
that,
in.
okay.
Because there's so much reading, so if you just maybe
Right.
ask questions.
That's, okay. So let's put this aside, the paper, and let's just talk, okay? Because, I
Okay.
mean, just ignore the camera.
Okay.
And I'm gonna just kind of look at this and ask you questions about it, so that way we can
Okay.
kind of just go through and really put everything together. So tell us about when you were at GE, and were the computers like, that was a really new thing at the time that you were
Yeah.
there, right? So why don't
Yeah.
you tell us about that?
Start with that GE.
Right, let's start with, and just tell us about being at GE, that you were actually at GE, and what you did while you were there, and what was exciting about it.
Okay. Well, when I started working, we did all the work on drawing boards
And this was at GE.
at GE.
Okay.
And
We'll start out with at GE.
Can you do that? Can you say, at GE, we started
yeah,
working? Okay.
yeah. At GE, we were working on drawing boards. Later on, we went to computers, and I was one of the pioneers on working on a computer.
I imagine they were very large too, weren't they? And then what did you guys do with what you had from the computer? Were you designing the engines, or what did you do with the computer designs?
I did preliminary design on a computer,
Okay.
and I was sort of a pioneer, pioneer in doing that.
Okay. Okay. And then tell us, what is it that you do at Cedar Village? Because I know you've been a volunteer here for a long time. So could you just start it out with at Cedar Village I and just tell us what you do?
Okay. I started at Cedar Village around in 1997, and I've been working in the medical records department, doing filing in every week.
Okay. And you also work on the golf outing too, right?
Yeah, I've been working on a golf outing ever since it started as a whole observer.
So have you ever seen anyone make a hole-in-one?
No, nobody ever had a hole in one. In fact, most of the time they didn't even hit the green.
They're over in the water or whatever.
Yeah.
Let's see, but you volunteered for other golf tournaments too, right?
Yeah,
Where else have you volunteered working with golf or whatever else?
I started volunteering at the golf outings and the golf tournaments for women, and later on the senior golf tournament at Kings Island. And that was my first volunteering job.
I bet that was an experience.
Mm-hmm.
How many women golfers were there?
What's it?
I said, how many women were there a lot of women golfers?
Well, it was the professional women golfers.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's still a small group then. All right. And tell us, do you want him to go through the community stuff a little bit
Yeah, and
too?
tell a little bit about his family too. Just can talk about his wife and
Okay.
his children, and
Okay.
maybe where he married her, or where he met her. Just that way you can
Okay.
start talking.
Okay. Would you tell us, because we kind of went real quickly over your family, and family is what it's all about. So why don't you tell us who your wife is, and where you guys got married, and those
Okay.
early years, and then the
Okay.
kids.
I got married in 1949 to Annette, and we have 3 children, 2 boys, 1 daughter, 2 sons.
So did you guys live here? You were in the service though, right, when you first got married, or you
No, I was out of the. Oh yeah, I got out of the service in 1945,
Oh, okay.
and then I got married in '49.
So did you meet Annette here? How did you meet her?
Oh yeah, I originally met her at a picnic when I was in ACA, which is the junior order of B'nai B'rith, and but when I found out she was I was at that time about I was 19 and she was only 13.
Oh, wow. So you had to wait for her to grow up then.
So I later on I met her at somebody's wedding, and I started dating her.
So how long did you guys date?
Huh?
How long did you all date? Did you date for a long time, or?
About a little over a year.
And then did you have like an apartment here, or?
Well, when we first got married, her parents lived on Mitchell Avenue, and they had used to have made, was a, what they call it, a two-family house, but they had maids' quarters up on the third floor, so we took over one of the rooms up on the third floor for a while.
How long did you guys live there?
But a little over a year, and then, see, it was hard to find apartments at that time, and then her sister lived on Golson Avenue, and they bought a house, so we got their apartment
Oh, well, that's good.
in Avondale on Golson Avenue.
I found a little bit about his military, about,
Okay.
when he entered the
So you have
military.
enough on family?
I think so.
Okay.
We'll get that.
So tell us more about being in the military. You didn't have to go overseas, so I know that was,
Well, not right away, because they,
but started out with
Yeah,
in the military
see,
or whatever.
see, when I went in the Army, I went down to Fort Knox for basic training, and the people that I finished basic training with went in these tank battalions that went in the South Pacific, and they were usually they were wiped out. So it actually saved my life. So I spent 2 years up at Fort Benjamin Harrison. I used to come home every weekend, practically, and but finally I got cleared. But because it took the Army 2 years. Normally in civilian life it took only about a couple weeks, to get cleared. And but once I got cleared, they sent me over to England, and I was supposed to go into military government, but then I ended up in the Signal Corps, and I had delivered mail. In fact, I was the first one to go to Paris, and because they set up Eisenhower's headquarters, and we had to deliver the mail there. So I was a pioneer in that.
Okay. What else would you like to have him hit on?
So you want to talk more about community service now? A little bit.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about community service, and because you were talking about that, what is so important to you about community service? How did you really start? I know you started out, with the Army, but what was that first experience that you had serving others outside the military? Or serving just the community?
Okay, I started out at Kings Islands for the golf outing, the women's golf outing, and then later on the senior, Kroger senior tournament.
So did you like golf really well? Is that why you started with helping with the
Yeah,
golf outing?
well, yeah, I was playing golf. Those days I used to play golf twice a week. I was in a GE league, and I was on Sundays. I had several friends I used to play with every Sunday.
So they just asked you one day if you wanted to be part of this golf outing, and you're like, absolutely, or?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I was already working here when they had the golf outing.
okay.
But talk about his daily regimen about working out. That was interesting. He works out 3 days a week. Just kind of
I know you were wearing me out with that, how much you work out. I need to come work out with you sometime. Would you
Okay.
tell us about how you started how long you've worked out, what you like
Well,
to do?
I used to belong to the Jewish Center, and when they eliminated the health club there, when they closed down the old Jewish Center, I had to look around for another place to do my exercises. So I went to Tri Health, and it's close to my house, close where I live. So it's only about 5 minutes away. So it's very convenient, and I didn't go back to the Jewish Center.
So when you work out, what do you do?
I usually walk about 2 miles, and then I work out on these weight machines.
So have you done that all your life, or is it something that you started after you retired?
No, I started that after I retired. I never did too much exercise. My work kept me busy to keep doing that kind of stuff. I just had enough time to play golf.
And you've always had time to play golf, right?
Yeah.
What?
Maybe his accomplishments or something, just let them just talk about any accomplishments and that.
Okay. How about your accomplishments, the things that you are most proud of, like professional or volunteering?
Okay. Well, I didn't mention before, but I got several awards at GE for outstanding work, and and I don't know what else.
What kind of awards did you get?
Oh, just an award, just a little thing to put on the desk, you know.
Was it like for, because I know you said that you were one of the pioneers with the computer design.
Yeah.
So was it related, were your awards related to that, or
No, it
was
was
it to other-
just in just general work.
Okay. Anything else that you can think of that you want?
Actually, I thought that was really interesting to talk about his father when they leave Germany.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because he was reading that because he didn't really talk to his. I thought that was really interesting how he came to the United States. His father was smart and decided to
Okay.
just kind of get his version rather than reading it.
At the very beginning of our taping, you were talking about your family before you left Germany and how they decided, you know, how your
Yeah.
dad decided to come. Would you share that story with us again
Okay.
about leaving?
All right. The point was, my two brothers had left Germany already, and since I was the youngest, they wouldn't let me go. So, but my father had four sisters that lived in New York, and so he decided that it's time to get out of Germany because Hitler took over the Rhineland and neither England or France would do anything about it. So he figured it's time to come to America. And my mother's oldest brother lived in Blanchester, Ohio, and he sent the papers for us. So, and I'll tell you another story I didn't put in there, but he belonged to the Masons, and he joined the Scottish Rite in Cincinnati. And I checked that out on the records later on. But he went to a meeting right after he sent the papers for us. And Alvin Barkley at that time was the key speaker there. And he met Alvin Barkley and he mentioned to him that he sent papers for his sister and brother-in-law. So at that time, people had to wait for months to get called to the American consulate. And we got our papers, and right away we got called to the American consulate. So we found out that, I mentioned that Alvin Barkley must have called the State Department, and they moved our papers from the bottom to the top.
I like
That
that.
is a good story. That is a good
And I
story.
think
Is there anything,
I
Eric,
mean-
is there anything else that you'd like to tell us or share with us?
maybe
I don't know.
his life here at Cedar
I got a lot of stories to tell.
Well, why don't you tell us a couple more stories that you'd like to tell us? Something about, a story about Cedar Village, or just a story from when you were younger. Just share a couple stories with us.
I don't know. I don't know of any good ones right now.
I'm sorry, what?
I say I don't know any good ones right now. No, I've been enjoying working at Cedar Village. It's really, and my wife spent about a month here last year. She broke her leg and she was upstairs. But they recommend the hospital when they operated recommended Cedar Village for rehab.
So she did the rehab program.
Yeah.
How long was she involved in that, with the rehab? How long did it take?
Well, she still needs rehab.
But, I mean,
Yeah,
did she actually stay at Cedar
No,
Village?
but about a month or so.
So did you find the people to be real helpful while
Yeah.
you were here?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of a family environment?
And just having talked to Cedar Village has been, just maybe say that would be really nice.
Could you say, while she was here, Cedar Village, while she was here at Cedar Village, explain, like that it felt like family, or that you felt like she was well cared for?
Yeah,
Would you mind to?
Okay. When she was here, she was very well cared for. In fact, I used to join her on Friday nights for Friday night dinner.
Okay,
All right.
pretty good.
All right. He says we're done. You did a
Okay.
great job.
Oh.
Thank you. I know